Hey everybody, hope everyone can hear me. Landon, Michael, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Yep, we're here.
Hey guys. Well, we have folks just starting to jump in. Thank you everyone for joining us at 1 p.m. Eastern here on the East Coast. Landon, you're out towards the West Coast. You're 3 hours behind, correct?
That's correct. Yep, out in Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, Arizona. Excellent. And we appreciate everyone jumping in. Today should be a really great conversation and webinar with Landon on developing a thriving golf community. And Landon is an Op 36 location, a great coach, really kind of a trailblazer in the Op 36 network. And also just in his section, and we keep hearing his name pop up everywhere. So we're excited to have him on to be sharing what he's doing in such a short amount of time, to build what he's building. And a lot of the conversations when we talked with Landon was around this idea of community and how you build community and why that's kind of the engine or the underlying foundation behind really great group coaching programs. So Landon, thank you again for jumping on with us. We're really excited to kind of kick in and dive into these conversations.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then we also have Michael Brooks, who is on. Michael's one of our PGA program advisors. Michael and I go way back. Actually, when I was running Operation 36 at McGregor Downs Country Club in 2015, I was looking for an assistant to help me with that, right? This is before we really started licensing Operation 36 all over the country and all over the world. And only one student at NC State, when we put it out there, raised their hand, and it was Michael. So Michael has helped run the golf program there in McGregor. We were seeing 80 to 100 kids once a week for 8 months out of the year. And then it slowly transitioned in. We got to steal him from McGregor to help other coaches grow their programs. So I think with all three of us on, we'll be able to tease out a lot of great content today and great information that you can apply to your golf programs. But Michael, thank you for joining us too.
Absolutely. It's good to be on here.
Excellent. So to kind of like get us started, where I thought we would start first, Landon, is a quick introduction to you and a bit of your background, right? So we got you right now. You're the director of player development, kind of really the founder of the Tucson Golf program and what you're doing at Tucson City Golf. You are the 2022 Player Development Award recipient in the Southwest section, 2018 Youth Player Development Awards recipient. You were awarded 2022 Op 36 Top 50 Coach. And what I think is really impressive there is that you were only in the network for a year, right? And that is a very objectivable, we look at the data of how you're creating golfers and growing golfers. You can see here within a year, you had 23 9-hole events logged, 73 golfers created, and you helped your community lose over 1,200 strokes, which is really cool to be able to see improvement and show that they're improving. So, can you give us just a bit of background on kind of your background in golf, Landon, and just bring us up in a minute or two to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that introduction. Yeah, I'm Tucson, Arizona, born and raised. It's cool to be kind of back home now. I'm based out of Randolph Golf Complex, and that's where I really learned to play the game. So I didn't start playing golf till I was 15, seriously. And I, after high school, I took a year off while I was working at Omni Tucson National, a club here in town, and really just fell into golf big time. Got a lot better. Played community college golf for 2 years, and then started the PGA program. And so I was lucky enough to be mentored by some awesome PGA professionals here in the Southwest section while working at Tucson National. And that transitioned into me being the program director for the first tee of Tucson for 3 years. And then COVID came, and then I became the director of instruction for Top Golf Tucson, where that was awesome for my just teaching experience. I think I did close to 900 lessons in like 10 months or a little bit under that time. And then I was presented with the opportunity to create a player development program from scratch for Tucson City Golf. And so from that came the Tucson Golf program. And back when I was working for the first tee, I was introduced to Operation 36. And so I knew, given the chance to do what I'm doing today, Operation 36 was going to be a big part of that. And like I was telling Matt earlier, it's the nucleus of my player development program. So I have Operation 36, but then I also run PGA Junior League, Ping Inter Club, PGA Family Cup, and also I'm the section lead or area lead for PGA Hope. So really, group coaching is my thing. And on the side thing, you know, I'm trying to get rid of individual lessons and really firm up that I only do group coaching and mostly on on course coaching. So it's been a fun ride, and Operation 36 really has made my life a lot easier.
Well, we appreciate that, but as we always say, it takes a leader to lead these forward. And it sounds like you have a clear vision on why you want to build group coaching programs, right? And why that's important and how you build community into those. And you know, just on the front of the call, like it sounds like you said, "Hey, I'm trying to get away from doing private lessons to set up the call." I think it would be good to. Could you explain why?
Yeah, get more time back, right? And you know, I'm only 30 and I'm still you know, fresh. I've been a PGA member for 5 years, 6 years now. So I'm still in the early stages of my career, but I want to make living a life a priority, and I want to live life my way. And so uh the opportunity I have to run this golf program right now, I, I make my own schedule. And so I make it known that I'm making my life schedule first, and then I'm building the program schedule around that. And so what that allows me to do is be a lot more clear-headed and just motivated and fresh and ready to go come time for my sessions and coaching my teams.
That's awesome. And what we're going to cover today, I mean, this ties right into where we're going and what our objective is today on the call for everybody is we talking with Landyn, really there was 5 tips that surfaced on how to build a thriving coaching community that he has seen through his experience. And you can tell it's a breadth of experience, right? Through a lot of different areas. And what I love about what Landon's doing is he's focusing primarily on group programming, but not just prioritizing one over the other. He's saying, look, we have these experiences, and then there's these different ones that we kind of piece together for a complete player development program for Tucson, you know, Tucson City Golf, and for the Tucson, that's what the Tucson Golf program is. So for those who aren't aware that are on the call, we have kind of a mixed bag. Some are Op 36 program locations, some are maybe have never even heard of Operation 36 before, right? So I did want to get a quick overview of just the program structure. I'll take about 2 to 3 minutes to do that here in the beginning. Then we're going to dive right into these 5 tips with Landyn. And then we are going to do question and answer at the end. So what we like to do is maybe we can surface them as we go throughout the call to make it more interactive. But Michael, what is the best way for folks to submit questions? And if you could kind of lead that throughout the call.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a Q&A feature in Zoom. That would be probably the best route to go for folks. And then we'll try to address them. Like Matt said, if we can fit it in live, that'd be great. Or we'll try to circle back there at the end to make sure we address as many as we can. If we cannot get to them, we'll make sure we follow up with you after the webinar.
And I always like to say we're an open book. So, you know, Landyn can work on answering them. Michael's worked with hundreds of coaches and helped launch programs around the country. And our Adopt 36 being a core is a group program. I think with our you know, the power of 3 here, we'll try to give you the best answer possible. So no question's a bad question. Please go ahead and post it. As we go in, I just did want to give a quick overview on Operation 36. So if you've never heard of Op 36 before, you know, our team, I'm Matt Reagan. I'm one of the co-founders of Operation 36. I was fortunate enough to team up with Ryan Daly, another PGA professional, back in 2010, believe it or not. And when we started, our whole goal was to create a long-term junior golf program. And the basic idea was if we could get the kids coming every single week for the entire golf season, we have a better chance to turn them into a golfer. And little did we know, we got 3 kids to sign up, and we figured out how hard that actually was to take them from never playing and turning them into a golfer. So who are we today? You know, and back in 2015, we had a lot of golf professionals reaching out and saying, hey, all this stuff that you built over those first 5 years and trying to build an effective long-term group coach program, could we use that at our club? So in 2015, we started what we would say licensing the golf program, or figuring out how do we package this up to help other golf professionals run effective group player development programs, primarily for beginners. And so that's what we focus on now, is helping golf professionals around the world implement Operation 36 programs, and also just help with their group coaching business to get that off the ground. So we have about over 700 locations, and we've seen 100,000 participants who have gone through the program. And just recently, as of just over a year ago, we merged with Golf Genius, which is now our parent company, primarily because their mission aligns perfectly with ours, with helping golf professionals, but also being able to have the resources to continue to grow this mission and really put the product at the forefront and let the pros be the decision makers on where it goes next. So how does the program work? First, it's pretty simple. Golfers attend a weekly group class. They're going to work through a curriculum in that class. You can see the different skills below. So that makes sure that there is a skill that's being covered. And then essentially it's sandwiched between a couple of games that you're playing, but it creates a fun group environment and community like we're going to talk about. And then they're also going to get on the golf course and play 9 holes. So how do we get beginners on the course? We start them 25 yards from the hole, and we challenge them to shoot the score of 36 from 25 yards from the hole. They play 9 holes from there. Every hole is a par 4. And if they shoot 36 from there, they back up to level 2, 50 yards from the hole. So this just continues all the way through the program. But it's the combination of weekly group classes and the 9-hole events that really add up to the combination of what we have found to be successful formula for creating a golfer. It's giving them the complete environment. And then finally, in 2017, we started building kind of our own technology to help run this program, specifically for Op36, to make it easy through the whole player development process. So that's how it's set up. That's how it's run. So when we're speaking about Op36 today and how the programs are run and set up, it's similar. It's a similar setup to, I'm sure, Landyn, you run the weekly classes and you do the 9-hole events, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Most definitely.
Yep. And so as you go throughout, one thing that's nice about the technology, and we talk about building community today, is that you can keep track of this stuff over time, is to build a relationship, as we're going to talk about, with your players. So it's a long-term vision, long-term journey. By doing that, we can do things like present a player journey report at the end of every semester, at the end of every year, year after year, to keep that player coming back and get them excited about where they started and where they went. We also have the tools outside of the program where they can log when they play in practice, and that comes back to you, the coach, so you can build that little team community where they earn points for playing, practicing, and engaging with the curriculum for you and your community. And there's that team-based component to it, right? And we built the whole program around, it's an individual trying to work on their game, but can we do it together as a team, right? And that's really important, and that's a part of the structure of Op36. And then finally, like how would I structure this as a golf pro? Everyone's a little bit different. We call this kind of the standard pilot program. And I would like what Landyn's doing, and I've even heard of others doing it, chunking it down to even shorter timeframes than this. But typically it's 8 weeks of classes and 4 9-hole events spread over that. And you charge anywhere between $300 to $420 per participant to attend 8 classes and 4 9-hole events. And coaches, if they fill that with 6 students, can make anywhere between $150 an hour. And if you can have an assistant professional there to see 12 students at a time, it could be in upwards of $360 an hour, right? So this is a very common model that you can do. And then you kind of scale that up over the course of the entire year. Landyn, when you set up your programs, when we were talking earlier, you do 6 weeks of classes. Can you walk through what your program structure is?
Totally. Yeah. So when I first started last year, this was the model that I did, was the 8 weeks and 4 play days. And then last fall, I switched that to 4-week sessions. So it was 4 classes, 2 play days. And then this year I have done 2 6-week sessions, which is 6 classes, 3 play days. And that was kind of the money spot. I feel like 4 weeks was also really good. And after this last 6-week session that I did, I just took a survey of my students and just was asking for general feedback about the program and what kind of flow they like the best. And 6 weeks was the most popular.
That's really cool. I love it. I love how you're using feedback to learn how to shape it in your location. That's phenomenal. So no, thanks for sharing on that. We'll dive into that a little bit more here in a little bit. But the nice thing about this, right, is it's not meant to be run just for 8 weeks and then you never do it again, right? It's designed this program just continues for them. Everyone can continue to come to this as long as they want to. And that's why it's called a developmental program. So at the end of the day, just to kind of look over the scope of Op36, and we'll jump into the interview, really what the program is designed to do is to help you with the developmental program cycle that we've learned over the last 12 years. The first thing you're going to have to do is fill your program, right? So we help you with that, with setting your classes and your schedules, getting your landing page live, managing registrations, delivering the program, helping you with these lesson plans, right? If you get 12 students to sign up, you got to know what you're going to do with them. You got to have a plan. You got to have your staff aligned, right? So we look through the lens and the technology to make sure that we had our lesson plan builder that can be attached to classes. You can go and update your own lesson plans, right? And then you're going to have to be able to communicate with your folks and be able to kind of show that they are getting better throughout the program, which comes to one of the things that we think is super important with beginners is just motivating your participants, showing your impact over time, and then letting them know that they're improving, your facility's improving, and that starts to come right into that full circle of building a community, right? And then the process starts over again. It's a never-ending cycle. So those are the tools that we build upon as we're working through Op36, as you're building your programming, and us here at headquarters are really here to just help you full-time and be a kind of a supporter for it. So now I think that kind of tees up and goes right into, okay, we're thinking more long-term already, right? We see that the program's used to be used to create a golfer. We got to keep them coming for the entire golf season. We got to get them in weekly group coaching programs. But we got to get into the meat. What are 5 tips on how folks that are out there, how can they do it, Landon? And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. We'll just have a conversation. We'll go into what would be your tip number 1. Let's cue up tip number 1 for building a thriving golf community.
Yeah, tip number 1 for me would be organization. And so I think you just hit on it perfectly with, that cycle of having to get everything established, make sure you're communicating, getting everything set up for the classes, and then you're continuing to review and communicate as you go through, and then it just continues to flow. And so, organization in that aspect, and also every other thing you have to do to make sure that you're ready to go into class and remember specific things about your students' games and lives, and also being ready to kind of just free flow it. And if your lesson plan doesn't necessarily work out once class starts, then you got to do what you do best and just coach golf and make it work for that next hour. So organization would be my number 1 key for sure.
And to go along with organization, it's like so many times I'm kind of a planner, right? I go in there and I want to have the full complete plan laid out. I want to have structure because it allows me to walk away and not have to think about it, so I can focus on other things. But even having that plan, we walk into situations every day where it's like that plan completely goes out the window. But I think having that structure, it's what I learned coaching quite a bit, was just having this idea in my head. One of the tips I always give to folks when they're like, well, how do you build an effective lesson plan? It's like, I always do a game in the beginning, get everyone connected, right? You're going to do a little bit of education in the middle, and you go right back to a game. And if that's in your head and kind of helps you, all the Op36 lesson plans are set up that way. Do you have any tips around organization when it comes to delivering classes that you've learned over time?
Yeah, I think it's really good to go into week 1 kind of structured the same way for all classes. And then you're going to know right away with your audience and the crew that you're going to have for the next 4, 6, 8 weeks, whatever it may be, how you're going to have to tweak things. And so just getting to know your students, and then you can start to tweak your lesson plans for the weeks forward. And what I like to do is, I follow the lesson plan template. I'm super OCD about getting things on there as well. But then on the side, I just put little notes like, here's extra games we can do, extra activities we can do, tips to remind this person about this. And so that kind of leads into my next tip, which is communication. And so I tend to over communicate, I think, which is better than not communicating very much. And so I just want to make sure folks know days in advance of their class what they're going to be doing that week in class, where to meet, what they need to bring, things they can focus on, videos to watch, and just always staying ahead of it. So I use my calendar to remind myself to send out updates before the week comes, and for the play days, making sure I'm in a unique situation to where I have, I'm based out of one golf course, but I operate for Tucson City Golf, but then I operate out of 4 different properties. And so I'm lucky enough that I have access to the tee sheets for all those properties, and my GM trusts me to go in and, he knows I understand the business, and I'm not going to go in and book our play days at 8 a.m. when we can be making, a lot more revenue. So just being strategic and communicating with, the golf course staff and making sure that they know what to expect come play days. Our parents and our adults that are in the program, they know what to expect. Younger kids that are going to require a caddy. That way, once people show up, there's already much more of a comfort zone in getting to the golf course, because they know, okay, here's my range code. I can go get balls. I need to be at the first tee 10 minutes before my tee time. Coach Landyn suggested I should probably go work on my putting speed before I head to the tee, and that I need to bring water, snacks, sunscreen. It sounds silly, but I try to be as elementary as I can, as kindergarten as I can, when I'm explaining what to expect, what to bring. That way that you don't leave any leaf unturned. So it's just organization 1, communication 2.
And to go along with communication real quickly, and I just think it's undervalued what good communication looks like when it comes to a sports program. Like, especially now, I've got a 6-year-old daughter. I mean, I used to kind of, we, very similar to you, over communicate, right? Have the tools to do it. It's why the announcements tool is built inside of the app. That's why we have the schedule now, that you can add details to the schedule inside of the app. And we have more tools coming that surface the calendar, right? We have found that what parents value when it comes to kids specifically, and adults when they're getting into a program, is to feel like they know what they're doing when they're not there, right? And it's always like, okay, if something's coming up, what do I need to be prepared for? If not, all of a sudden you start getting email after email of, well, what's this? And you have to respond to those, because of an administrative nightmare, right? It's like, when you're managing a community, if you over communicate, you get way less questions. You just need the tools to be able to do it. And that's what parents love, because they're comparing your program to the other program that's down the road, right? And the other program that they're doing in gymnastics or dance or karate. And they want it to be simple, effective, and they want to know what to do, because they're busy. They're running all over the place. If they have multiple kids, it's hard to manage. And so I just think communication is absolute key. And do you do any sort of through your communication, like praising students or celebrating successes, things of that nature?
For sure. Yeah. I always try to highlight like a leaderboard from each play day. If someone had been obviously really struggling, for example, like getting the ball off the ground to start, and they finally are able to do it, sometimes I'll catch it on video and I'll be sure to share that. Something else I was going to hit on too is, just I'm always feeding myself with some kind of positive information, whatever it may be, on a daily basis. And I posted a picture of, and it was a quote from, I don't remember, maybe Tony Hawk or something, of him trying to complete some trick. And so it's like this timeline of this skateboarder kind of jumping and failing and everything. And then I posted that in our community and just related it to the golf swing. And so, there's just so much with communication. I mean, I try to be upfront with like kind of everything that I have going on in my life, and things that I feed myself with. And, part of building a community is you kind of need to create the vibe and, present a culture where it's non-judgmental and free to be, whoever, come as who you are. And, you can swing and miss, and some people may laugh, some may not, but we're all in this together, right? Where everyone's on the same journey. And something that I want to make sure that I kind of point out here before we kind of get going any further is that I have more adults in my program than I do juniors. And so even though I'm saying like, you got to, I was real adamant about being elementary or kindergarten with my details and communication, I'm referring that to the adults as well, because people don't read their emails and whatever else, and they're always going to show up and be like, oh, I didn't know. And I was like, well, it was in the email. And so I try to, as I go on to, going back to week 1 and having to adjust your plan or whatever for the next couple of weeks, I start to understand how my students best communicate. And some may need a text reminder, and others are going to read the email, and others are going to help others. And so it's just kind of quarterbacking the whole situation and leading the whole culture and the whole vibe, and making sure that people are getting along and getting paired up with like-minded individuals, and just making sure I'm, they always know that I'm there for them along their golf journey. That's a term that I use a lot, is, their golf journey.
That's awesome. And, we look at, and I know for a fact that in the next 6 months to a year, we have a lot of stuff in there around communication, the technology of Op36, right? Because it keeps coming back as feature requests from coaches, also from families and students, and how we can improve that and make it a little bit more seamless. And like when I have my programs, the first thing I did on that first day, it's like, hey, we didn't used to have it where it was in the app, but here's the schedule of events, right? By the way, you're going to get a weekly email. It's going to update you. Please read the email. Like I do that with every family. And now it's the same thing, but now it's, hey, here's the app, there's the schedule for the week. And then, by the way, if I send an announcement, you're going to get an email and you can go back into this class anytime and you can see it, right? So that way, if they say, well, I didn't see it, I always just pull up in the class and it's like, it's right here, and if you need help downloading it, I'm in, I can get you going, but I don't want you to miss it. But I know there's so many other ways that we could help centralize that. So I'm excited about being able to explore that farther too, just from the technology perspective. Awesome. So we've got, if we did like a recap, Michael, what do we have for the first 2 tips? Oh, you're on mute.
Yep. Tip number 1 is organization, and talking to keeping things organized and notifying families about what's going on as far as when programming's running. And number 2, communication, ensure everyone knows what to expect. It's okay to over communicate, send out updates weekly for classes and 9-hole events. Communicate with, I thought this was a good one, communicate with course staff regularly for independent contractors. Even if you're a pro at the facility, communicate with everybody on property so everybody knows what's going on. That way, if a student shows up and doesn't know where class is, everybody at the property will be able to assist. And it creates less questions for in the future. So all really good points.
Awesome. All right, Landon, what else you got?
Yeah, I've kind of hit on this one a few times already, but knowing your audience. And so I have a very diverse population, which is awesome, right? We got to grow the game in a diverse way. And so you just got to know, kind of who you can always be yourself, but kind of who you need to be in certain classes. Junior classes, for example, I have some kids that feed off they're super high energy, and if I'm high energy, then they are not going to focus at all. And so I need to kind of be that calming feature for them. But then I have other juniors who are homeschooled and don't get a lot of social interaction and are kind of definitely in their shell, and I need to be even more outgoing than I already am to kind of get them going and get them to trust me. And then with adults, I have working class adults, younger folks who work from home or just have the flexibility to come to a class at a random time, who are definitely more into the modern technology age. And then I have folks that are retired. I have my oldest student is like almost 80. So it's so diverse. And so I kind of got to know how I can communicate with this set of juniors. And then the next hour I have these adults coming, and then I got these juniors coming after that. And then, so it's just before the day gets going, it's just, kind of going through, okay, who do I have today? All right, I know all these, boom, boom, boom. All right, you're kind of just like game planning in your head to get going. Growing up an athlete, my dad was a basketball coach. And so I grew up around teams and around coaching all the time. And so it's always like, how are you going to get your mind ready for practice? You got to go be a leader in practice. How are you going to get your mind ready for the game? And then even outside of that, like just at the facility, I'm a leader at the facility, and I kind of got to always be on it. And so just knowing your audience and knowing kind of who you got to be while still being yourself, for them to be able to trust you and be willing to want to be in your program and have you be a part of their golf journey.
That's awesome. And it is a part of that. I think a really good coach over time learns how to kind of adapt to communicate differently with each. It takes a lot of reps. That was the one thing, when you think about, okay, if I'm getting private lesson reps in, right, you're getting kind of a one-on-one experience of trying to do that. I always saw group coaching. I felt like it made me a better coach faster, because when you're doing it in a group, it's less about the technical and it's way more about the communication and motivation and the energy you bring and how you diversify that. So I really like how you put it. Like, you went across the spectrum. Like, it is neat to hear about all the different types of segments of people that you are, you're looking at, but you're also, it sounds to me like you're also kind of catering your program to that. Didn't you mentioned, like you said you send out surveys, right, to figure out when they can meet. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, totally. So I just asked some basic questions. I don't even think I sent out like an actual survey. It was just part of an email. And I was like, hey, I'm looking for some open feedback, mainly what days and timeframes work best for you, and do you like the 4, 6, or 8 week structure? And then from that, I got people that just answered that, and then some that sent me an essay, and it was cool to see all the feedback. And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to remind myself to do. And I learned a lot through some other training with RGX is asking for reviews and asking for feedback. So I do that from time to time, and it's interesting to see. But with that, I found that I'm able to now to start segmenting my classes in the future in a little different way. And I already kind of knew this, but with the feedback that I got. And so looking into the fall for our fall programming, because we've been killing it so far this year. I've done 2 6-week sessions. This last 6-week session with Op 36, PJ Junior League, Ping Inter Club, we were working with about 120 people a week. And that's only within 18 hours. And so I love it. And so looking in the future though, with this feedback, I now know that we're going to segment out our Operation 36 classes in a little different way. And so we're going to do juniors, 6 to 8-year-olds. We're going to do juniors, 9 to 11-year-olds, and then we're going to do teens, but I allow 12-year-olds to kind of hop in that teen class, because I think it's important at that age that you start to kind of interact with the teenagers. So we're going to have 3 different segments of junior classes going. And then for adults, we're going to do adult beginner, which is basically going to be your first and second session, or first, second, third session, basically to get you through orange and yellow. And then we're going to have adult returners, or adult, if you're already carrying a handicap, you don't need to hop in that beginner class. You can definitely get in a class with some folks who have been in classes and know what they're doing right away. And so it's just cool to see that the program has grown so much in short little time that I'm now starting to segment out. And that's only going to make, I think, my job and my coaches' jobs a lot easier. Life's a lot easier to prepare for classes. And because, with those little juniors, we can definitely play many more games and have many more colors out and, get a little silly. And then as we start working with the teens, we can start working on course management and talking about a little bit more serious things. And same with the adults. With the adults, it's teaching beginner adults is very similar to teaching a junior beginner. So it's just getting them going and teaching them how to play the game. And then those in the adult next session, whatever we're going to call it, is they know the flow. They know how we interact, and they're paying their own money for it, and they love the vibe that we're creating. So I'm excited to see what this segment of classes does for us in the fall, and how we expand on that in 2024.
That's awesome. And what I like that you're speaking to there is, right, when you're building a long-term group coaching program, you evolve it over time. Like when it first starts, everyone's brand new to it, right? But you're getting them to continuously come back. What we have been seeing, and what is successful, is one of the things we've gone from kind of what we would say, we would try to kind of just group everyone by, like you said, with the ages, that over time we've evolved it to this level, or skill-based classes, right? Because as people go through, they want to see that next step too, right? It helps tell the story, like, hey, you start here in our level 1 and level 2 class, and then once you get through 50 yards, by the way, you advance to our level 3 or level 4 class. And even if they haven't quite made it to there, it just paints the story or the picture that you have the next step for them, right? And then those audiences start to surface over time, because when someone's in level 2 or level 3 and they can shoot 100, they've been on the golf course, they know what's going on. They hate going back and listening to that like initial session that you have to do with everyone to make it successful, right? And I'm sure that's some of the feedback that you got. We get the same. It's like, how do we get everybody bought back in on that first day? And it also makes it easier to coach, I think, when you do it that way too, right? Because now you can just who your audience is when you're there, and you don't have to dance around a couple of people that were there that didn't really fit that audience or mold. It always just throw me off my game, right? When that happens. I'm sure you've had an experience like that.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, if you let the classes get a little too big too, and your diversity and skill level is very wide too, then it gets challenging. Yeah. Makes the hour go by fast though.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Well, awesome. All right, so we hit on we got tip 2, communication. We got tip 1 is being organized. And then we went through knowing your audience. What do you got next?
Vulnerability. And so this is something that as I'm getting older and I'm going through my own life experiences as well, it's just knowing that I need to be more vulnerable with folks. And so, you know, part of creating that vibe and creating the culture within your community is you can't be you can't like hide behind the scenes. People got to know what kind of life you're living, right? And not to know, they don't have to know all the private details and everything, but you are living a life. And I'm prone to always say sometimes, you know, it's just golf. I'm not out here saving lives. I'm out here helping lives, but it's just golf at the end of the day. You know, I'm not performing heart surgery. And so if I don't feel bad when I need for my own mental sanity to reschedule a class or to not respond to an email or to not stay late for after a class to help out or to not give that lesson. And it's took me a long time to kind of learn that, you know, especially trying to grow as a golf coach and wanting to be readily available. And I remember when I started at Topgolf, I literally told myself, and I was excited about, I'm just gonna leave my calendar open. They're open from, you know, till late. If I get late lessons, so be it. And then as time went on, I was like, whoa, that was stupid. And now it's like, I don't even leave my online calendar open because I want to be able to book times when I want to coach. And, you know, it is segmented out, but it's still also, I'm fortunate enough to kind of pick and choose who I want to coach since I have such a huge audience right now. And, you know, not to sound like ignorant about it or anything, but it's just, I love what I do and I want to be able to do it with people who are kind of enjoying the same process. And I've had to tell a couple of folks before that, you know, maybe I'm not the coach for you, and that's okay. And I will help you get to someone. But just being vulnerable, and I've canceled this last 6-week session. I think I rescheduled 3 or 4 classes throughout the session. You know, I had 9 classes going, so it's a lot of classes throughout 6 weeks. And I make sure I communicate ahead of time. I let them know, hey, I got something going on at home. My dog is sick, whatever it may be. I let them know, and I'm letting them know like, hey, this is more important, because if I don't take care of this, then I can't be who I need to be when I'm at your class and coaching you. And so, and people appreciate that, you know, and I let them know that, you know, and people see I got a lot going on, right? And I'm just a high functioning anxiety person who I little maybe OCD about things, but I have my lists and my systems, and it works. And so when you can be vulnerable with folks and just be like, hey man, like people ask like, how you doing today? And everyone so prone, good. All right, how you doing? And it's like, yeah, what if you're not doing good and you still answer good? I've been challenging myself to just be like, oh, I'm tired, or I'm exhausted, I'm stressed. And I give them like a real feeling, and they're like, whoa. And what that is kind of like doing is it's breaking down the barriers for me and my students to kind of get more on a personal level. And, you know, with that, they become more willing to be like, yeah, I'm stressed out too. You know, I've heard that before, and I've gotten one of the best reviews we've gotten is how our program has helped. This guy is about 35, has a really great job, works from home, but hasn't had much interaction since COVID. And so he told us how much we helped his mental life or mental health, which is then in turn helped his marriage and his overall life. And so just getting feedback like that is crazy. And I don't think that would have happened if I wasn't vulnerable with him in a conversation right away too. Like he showed up early for a class. I was hitting balls and he could just like probably see it on my face that I just had a lot going through my head. And so we just kind of chatted for a few minutes. And since then, he's been, you know, a completely different person, asking more questions in classes, referring more people to classes. And so just be real, be vulnerable. Don't try to always be perfect. We make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes in life. It's, you know, kind of just how you move forward. And that's back to the life lessons that we learn with this game, right? There's ups and downs. The game is a roller coaster. You got to make sure you don't get too high and you don't get too low, because something good or something bad is probably right around the corner. And so it's how do we stay on this even keel? And you know, what's been great about the community and this kind of vulnerability piece is people are creating new friendships and they're networking and they're getting out and they're being with people and they're enjoying nature. And it's you know, this game, I've always said, it has a lot of medicine in it. And, you know, I'm fortunate enough to be able to spread that medicine to a lot of people.
That's awesome. And I think there's two things I grabbed from that too. I think being vulnerable, you're saying, and like being authentic, right? Like when you're not feeling good, you tell someone, you're like, hey, I'm not having a great day. Start to break down these barriers that make you more authentic. They trust you more. And when they trust you more, they feel like they can share more. And the more they share, the deeper relationship you build, right? And so I think I didn't expect that tip today. And I think it's a huge tip. It's massive. I mean, it's kind of vulnerable that you would share that, right? It's like, in a sense, because it is something we don't talk about a lot. The other piece to this that you pulled in there was kind of putting on your own mask first that they tell you to do in the airplane, right? It's like, this is when I want to coach. This is when I want to work. I think as golf professionals, we get this kind of, we have to be, we'll grow the game at all costs, right? No matter what. And if we do anything that's kind of in our own self-interest, we feel maybe a bit guilty sometimes. It's been amazing because we've worked with thousands of golf coaches, right? Michael talks to them every day. It's so funny the things that people share when we're trying to help them build a golf program, that you don't realize we have to break down some, self-belief and different things. And like, this is okay. It's okay to make $300 an hour. It's okay to say when you're going to do it. And it's okay to say when you're going to run programming, when you're not going to. But at the same time, you're also listening to your audience and you're building it around them. So you're putting your customer first. You're making sure your self-interests are aligned. But I feel like some folks feel like they can't do both, which I've seen it so well done across the board. You're a great example of it, right? But it's definitely something that can be done. And that skill is a really good skill of a coach, I think, to start to pull out of people. They see that you're a real human being and you're there with them. And it's about working together and kind of being together a lot, because that's the power of it. You come every single week, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing that one.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that one too, to add, because I mean, these students are newbies for the most part. They're vulnerable by showing up and hitting shots in front of others in class, and a golf professional yourself. So they're being vulnerable. So to kind of respond to that and say, hey, I make mistakes too all the time. And then just to show that as a coach is pretty powerful for them to help feel more comfortable and set them at ease. So I think that's a great point.
Okay, awesome. Well, I don't know how you follow that one up, but I'm looking forward to the next one, Landon. So keep us rolling.
Yeah, thanks. That actually kind of teed up this last one, which is expectation management. And so, with that, I'm a swing your swing kind of coach. I'm not going to get you to try and look a certain way or get to a certain point. I'm going to help you understand what the club face does and how to make the ball do certain things. And however you do it is however you do it. And I say that because I have a swing that looks like John Daly, right? And so people also see that and they're like, you're a PJ Pro? I'm like, yeah, but did you see that ball flight? And then, if it's a very beginner, then what I've done before too is like, I know for myself, in order for myself to like have a good ball striking day, I need to go hit a lot of balls. It's just, I'm long and flowy and I got to get into it. And so I know that if I like to demonstrate during classes, and with beginner classes, I won't hit balls before, because it's going to make me, when I'm hitting those shots, it's going to make me kind of probably hit a couple bad ones, and they're going to be like, oh, okay. And I'm like, yeah, golf's hard. I say golf is hard so often. And so I'm also challenging myself to play left-handed right now too. Actually this summer I'm going to go through the divisions myself playing lefty, and I'll track it. And so people can start to see that. And I just let it be known, man, like the game is hard. For some reason, we want to be perfectionists in this game. Everyone wants to go out on the range and be able to strike it, in a certain way every single time before they go play. And I think just thinking back to when I first started playing, I had enough skills where I could, hit it around. I was athletic. My dad played golf, so I swung the club every once in a while. But my high school coach had to drag me to actually practice, because all I wanted to do was be on the course. I just wanted to go figure it out on the course. And, so expectation management, it's like golf is hard. That's like one of the mottos that we have. Week one of classes is always putting. And so I break out some stats. It's like whatever, 54% on tour, they make it from 8 feet. And then that opens a lot of people's eyes, and I typically will ask, like, I'll set up an 8-foot putt and I'll go stand there and I'll hit a couple, and I'll be like, so how often or what percentage of the time do you think PGA Tour pros make this putt? And they're like, every time. 90%, whatever it may be. And I'm like 54. And they're like, what? And, you know, that gets some like craziness going. And they're like, okay. And that kind of sets the tone. It's like, then I'll set out some easier, you know, basic stations, then I'll have some very difficult ones. And it's like, this is what you're going to get out there. You're going to get a different putt every single time. You're going to feel a different way, probably over every single putt based on where you're at on your round. And so just know that golf is hard and it's okay to hit a lot of bad shots. We're not out here to try to teach you how to hit the same shot time after time. I'm trying to teach you from your misses going from out here to here to here to here. And if you hit it in your window, then so be it. And, you know, I've done a lot of education myself lately because I'm also assistant golf coach for Pima College here in town. And so we've been using the decade system. And so with our better players or my teenagers that play in tournaments, you know, break out the little decade card and we start to talk about expected score from a certain yardage, you know, and they start to see that and it's like, oh, holy cow. And then I just love to help people understand how to play the game and don't like one of the best things about Operation 36 and the 8-week model or whatever is it's class play day that weekend. And it's like, I don't even know how to play golf. It's like, well, just take your putter out for 9 holes. That's all you need for 25 yards, depending on where you're at, right? And then that just kind of sets the tone. And what I've been doing lately with people that advance from 25 to 50 pretty quickly and they get a little nervous, I just reinstate or reinforce that like, hey, you just had the skills to pass from 25 yards. Everything is still a par 4. All you need to do is hit that same 25-yard shot that you hit to start the hole for that last round and then do it again. And if you want to on hole 2 or hole 3 and you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, lengthen out your swing a little bit and see if you can hit a little farther or change clubs and swing the same way. And so just trying to keep it simple and then just starting to, you know, as it's cool to just see these beginners advance back to 50, 100, 150, and they start to like freak out and they shoot some big numbers. And then we have a basic conversation, basically just change their perspective and their expectation management for how to play golf. And then they go out the next time and they like save 10 strokes or they shoot 36. And so it's just letting people know that golf is hard, but it's also, we make it harder when we try to be perfectionists instead of going out and playing the game. And so that's the best thing, you know, that I've gotten out of this program is just getting people on the course. I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where I'm hiring some more full-time coaches. I've hired some part-time coaches. And so myself, I'm able to kind of set back a little bit, grow the program even more, you know, be our spokesperson. But I also really get to get real specific with the segments that I personally want to go coach. And so that's going to be probably the beginner junior and the beginner adult. I love getting beginners into the game. And then those that I'm bringing on board will coach my intermediate and my advanced and help grow the program there. And so I kind of got away from expectation management there, but that, you know, it all segmented into everything. And it's just super exciting to see the Tucson golf program grow. And, you know, Operation 36 is the nucleus. And from that, I build out everything else. So Operation 36 is here. Then we got PGA Junior League, which I have 4 teams for 13U, and I have 2 teams for 17U. PGA Family Cup, Tucson Golf Program was the largest operating facility in the West region last year. Ping Inter Club, which I don't know if that's everywhere or not, but that's basically for high school golfers. And I run that January to June. And I'm going to start getting into PGA team golf and all the other programs, the group golf coaching programs that the PGA is coming out with. So can't thank you guys enough for putting this program together and kind of laying the groundwork for it's definitely made my life a lot easier.
I really appreciate that. And, you know, to tie back into your expectation management and how, you know, how important that is with players is, you know, when we looked at, you know, core by design, when we started everyone 25 yards from the hole, we set this like kind of hard goal. Then we break that into 4 milestones, breaking 50, breaking 45, 39, 36. We wanted everyone to come in with, you know, we're breaking down barriers, removing things to make it easier in your head to be less overwhelmed, right? Like you do when you get 5 lessons, you learn 5 swings and then you're good from the full tee box. That just is not a great way to do it. So you remove things to make it simpler, to create less overwhelm. And then once they actually shoot that first score, that sets up that conversation to be able to have on expectations. And we have these little nuggets that are getting ready to be built into the app with a new curriculum. Like, number one, it's going to show how many people around the world are in the same level they are, which is massive. I mean, because it just shows that there's other people that are right where you are, so that's coming. And then number two, it's what the average person shoots from the first time that they play from those yardages. And from level one, from all the data that we've seen, we're redoing this. This was from a year ago. But with the new data that's come in, from level one, the average score is a 48, right? So that's why we set it at 50, because we all remember what it felt like as golf professionals when we broke 50 for the first time. And we all remember when we broke 45. It was like writing a 44, which was like unbelievable. We remember writing a 39, right? Like, those are those experiences we want people to have over and over again early, instead of waiting 5, 6, 7 years and sticking it out like we did to become a good golfer, right? So that expectation management also comes into, if they don't write down a score or they don't do this, you can't have those conversations and coach them up on it. And that's what I felt like once you start to, like, the conversations you have, a lot of folks I feel like that are building group programming get really hung up on all this technical skill coaching. And they feel like they got to be a great technical coach. And they're all worried about, well, what do you teach for putting? And what do you teach for grip? And what do you teach for this? And it is it's such a small portion of what it takes to build a successful group coaching program. It is like almost minuscule. I've always said, you put a high school coach or a middle school coach or an elementary teacher to go out there and run the program for the group programming, they can probably do about as good as a job, because they have these skills on how to manage a group, build a community like you're talking about, and just have conversations like this on expectation management that we don't even think about because we're so focused on, I just got to get their grip right. There's so many other layers that go into it. So I'm so glad that was brought up on your end on just expectation management. It's huge. It's a getting people to understand that this is normal is half the battle to retaining them and keeping them comfortable in the sport.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up at 1:52. We're coming up on the hour here. Michael, has there been any questions that have come through? I thought those were amazing 5 tips.
Yeah, we have one question for Landyn in regard to scheduling and how you schedule your classes. Specifically if there's students that are in schools. I think you mentioned something along the lines of homeschool class as well. But just kind of walk us through how your classes are scheduled during, I guess, while kids are in school.
Yeah, totally. So we have after school classes. And so school in this area gets out around 3-ish, 3:30. And so we either start class at 4:30 or 5 p.m. I have weekend classes as well. And then back to knowing your audience, I have for some reason, I have a following of homeschool kids. And so I've been able to do, do like a midday, 11 a.m. lunchtime class for them. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Perfect. I have one more. When you're starting a program, how do you handle classes with juniors of varying ages and skill levels?
Yeah. So when I actually very first started last year, and I did the 8-week sessions, I sectioned it out and did a junior class and a teen class. And so that already kind of separated it by age. And then from there, I broke it down to just junior classes. And as juniors were reaching out for more information about the program, and I already had some signed up for classes, because most times they'll just repeat and do the next session in the same classes they were just in. Then I really start to just be like, hey, this class has this segment of people with this work for your time. I did run into this last session that I did a challenge in one of my junior classes where I allowed a 6-year-old in it, and I had mostly 9 to 12-year-olds. And so that was a little challenging, but what I did is I brought on a junior golf coach who, played high school golf, and his job for that class was to entertain the 6-year-old and make sure he had a good time. So as things are still going to pop up, and we'll just deal with them as they come. I'm looking at the questions here. How do you set up classes, sign-ups based on skill, like a 100-yard class, beginner? That's the cool thing about Operation 36 is you can really make it whatever you need to be. Like I said, I just started with adult, junior, and teen, and that turned into adult and junior. And now within the fall, that's going to turn into junior 6 to 8-year-olds, junior 9 to 12-year-olds, teens, adult beginner, and adults. And so just as you build, you just continue to grow. I'm more so focused on keeping people. I don't really care if they're in the same level or same division, because the skill is still the same. And so you introduce what the activities are for the day or the practice plan, whatever you want to call it. And then once they get going, then you do your thing coaching and you go have your specific conversations with them.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So like the model that's put together to group coaching, you had to like kind of work through that. What we found is you get multiple skill levels. The model of delivering a class is the same. You know, you're going to do a game, you're going to hit on the educational subject, you're going to do a game again, and everyone's going to get better. The only thing you can do better as a coach is try to figure out, as you evolve over time, is how do we build those in? How do we make sure we're grouping the people together in a better way? A lot of times there's personality. The other thing is skill level. And typically it's funny is you start to see the skill levels develop. Those are the ones that want to be together. It's interesting how that works, you know? I really like how you said, just to kind of touch on that, is like, you started very macro, like, let's just make this simple. There's a junior class, there's a teens class, and there's an adult class, right? It's really simple. And then as your community builds over time and those skill levels start to develop, you now see everybody, you see the dynamics, you know your audience, as you talked about, and then you adjust your program to that when you go into your next season, right? So I absolutely love how you're doing it. Like at headquarters, the 7 locations we run, that we do just skill-based classes. So it's like, even if you get a kid in their first 8-week section that has already kind of played before, you can kind of evaluate that, right? But we go, hey, level 1 and 2s are here, level 3s and 4s, or 3s and above are in this, what we call intermediate or advanced class. And it just works. But it is something it is something that evolves, right, over time, which I think is really, really important to know.
And I think that was scary for me at the beginning too. And so I just jumped in with, those 3 segments, and it works. It just works. And then once you get going, then you know how to make the next one. So
And
just
we have,
jump right in.
yeah, we just had some great product meetings over the last 2, 3, 4 months. We have some really neat designs on the new registration engine, because the larger programs, right, we're saying like, hey, when we put these out there, like we have different structures and sections of programming, like we need to organize these better, right? And so I've seen some, I've seen some designs of what's coming. I'm very excited about it because, we face it internally too. When you have a large program, you got to be able to say, hey, these are for beginner intermediate. These are for this. This is for ladies only. This is for, you got to be able to have your sections, but it's got to be specific to your community. So just know that in however you want to set it up, we have a solution to help with that soon. And hopefully that'll be live mid-year. That we can even, be promoting that. But I do know there's a solution in the tech too, to help with some of the like being able to organize the classes. That isn't typically a thing for a new facility, but it is as you grow, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And to say, Lee said, what is the yearly cost for Op 36 facility? And Lee, back in the day, it used to just be, it's purely $2,700 for the year. We have brand new options that just got launched. It very similar to PGA Junior League for those who are just getting started. So what I would say is, jump on a call. We'll send out a note after this. But we are working on barriers. We're working on a new thing. Now we have the registration engine live on how we can break down cost as a barrier. A lot of folks like want to run this and they say, look, I get to the budget and it can't go through. And we go, hey, not a problem now. We have a way that we can get it through, just like PGA Junior League does with player registrations where they pay the fee. But it's something brand new that we're piloting, that we're just getting off the ground. So anyone who's on the call who wants more information on that, the first step that our team does at headquarters, by the way, is we actually do a free player development program planner with you. We plan out your season with you just to make sure it's a fit. You can take it to leadership, take it to your GM, show them what you're about to do. And it lays out all the financials for you to see if it's a fit. And then we also show you how you can just kind of recoup that cost with an anniversary fee and how you want to set that up. I mean, Landyn, when you speak to, how do you just look at like building the cost of the program into your tuition, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, so what I charge for my 6-week classes for adults is $250. That includes the 6 classes and 3 play days. And I think I'm in a more unique situation. We kind of just take all registration fees and it just goes to the bottom line of Tucson City Golf, and then I'm paid a salary. So yeah, I'm sure there's many ways to go about it, but I don't even have a perfect science to it. I just thought 250 sounded good for 6 weeks, 150 for kids, and I could probably charge more, and I probably will next year. So
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people, you can either look at it building into the fees. And again, we just launched this new program planner 3.0, essentially lays everything out for you for your semesters. It shows you what the revenue would be, everything. So like we look at us as like partners in helping you build a group beginner program that not only from before you even start your journey, like with us, from that moving forward, Michael, Seth that are on our team, they help you actually execute, get it live, and make sure you get registration. So we pride ourselves at headquarters of really helping drive beginner golf. And honestly, we need more program locations. So that's what we're like, how do we break down barriers to get a program location? Could you run 2 classes a week, right? Because we have more people coming to our website right now looking for programs than we have places to put them. And so right now we have kind of an upset audience, I would say, so that we're trying to solve that. There's more people that want the program than we have this, distribution of location. So we're trying to find how do we break down those barriers, make it easier for pros to get started. But Mike, anything else? Any other questions that have been coming through? We're right here.
I think that's about it.
I would say that I do charge a $50 member fee just to join the program, and so that probably definitely covers the cost of the program with how many students you have in there.
It's 100% what we advise to, when we're on our program planning calls. It just, if you start in the beginning, it's super easy to do. It's done in every other sport, but they're also getting technology. They can see the program. So it's a tangible, you just call it a program fee, registration fee every year. It's to handle the administrative costs of running the program, right? And it pays for the program and more. Once you start to really grow your program, everyone's like, I'm glad I charged that registration fee. It's now a revenue generator, right? They take the additional fees on top of that and they pour it back into the program by buying prizes and doing pizza parties, but it all pays for, building that community feel. So I really appreciate you sharing that, because that's one of our top tips. I know, Michael, you push for that on every introductory call, don't you?
Yeah, that's a big one. I know there's sometimes hesitation, but you'll be wishing you did it afterwards usually. But yeah, it's a nice way to just to capture some on the front end. So yep.
Absolutely. But Landyn, thank you so much for taking the time today. We want to be respectful of everyone's times. It's 2:02 p.m. Eastern time. Thank you everybody for jumping on with us. It really means a lot. You took some time to learn a little bit more about building a thriving community and more about the Op36 program. If we can ever help you in building your beginner program at your club, our team will follow up with a recording of the webinar. You'll have your communication channel open with one of our team members. Jump on and do a program planner with them. We'd be happy to help you get it set up. And Landyn, thank you. These tips were awesome. It was got me excited again. And really thank you for the time, and thanks for taking time to put together some content.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.